LeGM just pulled off his greatest trick yet. The 76ers finally put their own version of a big three together, and apparently the Celtics have more money than God, or Allah, but we'll get there in a second. All that and the rest of the NBA winners and losers from free agency, but first... For the record, I know God and Allah are the same thing. Allah is just God in Arabic, not the point right now. Before we really get started, I have to explain the first and second apron rule thing to everybody because I keep seeing it get misexplained, and it explains a little bit. I feel like once you understand it, you'll start to see the reasoning behind some of these free agent moves that teams are making, why certain players aren't getting re-signed, why certain players are, etc., etc. So without further ado, the traditional cap for NBA teams is $140.58 million. That's according to TNT and Bleacher Report's Chris Haynes, and the NBA announced that on Sunday. So the first tax level, not the first apron, when you start having to pay the luxury tax, period, is $170.81 million. So if you go $29 million over the cap, you're good. You hit 30, you start paying the tax. Here's where the aprons start to come in. The first apron, where the tax and the penalties start to come in, is $178.13 million. So what are the penalties for that first apron? The mid-level exception that you usually get if you're already paying the tax, which is if you're between that first apron and that first tax level, usually somewhere in the area of $10 to $17 million, depends on the team and how much tax you're paying. There's a lot of variables in that, not important at the moment. But it goes from that to $5.2 million. So you get about half that value. So when you exceed that point, your penalties are as follows. Your team cannot acquire a player in a sign and trade if that player keeps them above the apron. So unless you're cutting costs, can't do it. So essentially, you can't sign and trade for a better player, which is the only reason you'd be doing a sign and trade in the first place. You cannot sign a player waived during the regular season whose salary was over $12.2 million or the mid-level exception. Salary matching trades must be within 110%. rather than 125% for teams not above the apron. So you have to match salaries a little bit closer. Let's say, for example, the Anthony Davis trade. You can put Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma isn't in a trade, but you get my point. You can put all those lesser players in that trade because they don't have to equal all the way up to Anthony Davis's salary. But when you pass that first apron, got to get a little closer to that number. But let's go up to the second apron now, because this is what really is going to start handicapping teams and why you're going to see a lot more teams cutting costs in the future. So once you pass that second apron, you can't get any mid-level exception players. You can't use any trade exceptions at all. You cannot include cash in trade. Your first round picks 7 years out are frozen. So right now you would not be able to trade your 2031 7th round pick and beyond. And the most fun part, your team's first round pick is moved to the end of the first round if you're above the second apron for 3 of the last 5 seasons. So essentially, this was made to balance the power in the league and prevent teams like the Warriors from stacking talent and paying them all the maximum, which is why specifically you saw Bob Myers and them were really mad when this passed. Came full circle because, as we're going to cover in a little bit, one of the players who are no longer on their team is Klay Thompson of the Warriors. Hopefully that all makes sense. If not, I'll make a more in-depth video. We'll get there later. All right, let's get into these winners and losers. First up, LeBron James, aka LeGM, is taking over. He's out in the front street and is doing everything outside of saying, I am running this team, and is doing it in a way where he guarantees that he gets all the good PR and none of the bad. He went out and somebody, quote unquote, leaked it to the media and said LeBron's willing to take a pay cut if the Lakers can bring in somebody to help out this team. And then inevitably, everyone didn't sign with the Lakers. I'm recording this Tuesday, July 2nd. It is currently 7:35 p.m. So if anyone signs with the Lakers between now and then, I don't know about it. But beforehand, it's been LeBron's running the Lakers. He's the head honcho over there, especially when it came to the drafting of his son, Bronny James. And speaking of which, I made a video about this where I don't care how you feel about LeBron. This is objectively cool that somebody like LeBron James, who grew up without his father, not only became LeBron James, but has his son, who is his namesake, not only made it to the league, but is on his same team. Pretty fucking cool. But of course, everyone tried to make it something ugly and brought up a bunch of stuff that y'all don't actually care about. to try to make this a bad situation, and we all know why. And the main thing I'll point out is y'all only care about nepotism when it's black people. And especially it became a bigger issue because it's LeBron James. And let me tell you all the deductive reasoning I've done to come to this conclusion. I didn't just throw this out here, right? So first, former players' sons have been in the league forever. It's always happened. And if you want to be real about it, only 3 of them have ever been good. Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. That's it. That's the list. That's the whole list. So are you more upset because Del Curry, Joe Bryant, or Mikal Thompson weren't still in the league by the time their sons got drafted? That doesn't make sense. Y'all don't actually care about rich people and nepotism, because if you did, you'd have your pitchforks and torches outside of Harvard University and not the Lakers trying to stop Bronny getting into the building. And if you wanted to go after the Lakers, you'd be going to the front office, where Jeannie Buss, daughter of Jerry Buss, who bought the Lakers, is the current owner of the team because of what? Nepotism. But y'all don't actually care about that. You don't care about a quote-unquote wasting of a pick, because I hate to inform you Lakers fans and other NBA fans, if the 55th pick in the draft is the difference between you winning a championship and not, you're screwed either way. It wasn't going to happen for you regardless. Sorry to be the one to tell you. And to there are more deserving players that could have been drafted in that spot. I've seen a lot of football people speaking like this. This is not like the NFL, where an undrafted player ends up making it to the Hall of Fame. The NBA is pretty good about picking who should be a first-round talent and who isn't. Once you get past pick number 45, everyone from that range to the end of the draft, you could argue whether they're draftable or not. You can argue whether they're going to even make the team or be playing for the Shanghai Sharks next year. That's just the nature of the beast. And as far as how good Bronny James is, most of us don't actually have the answer to that question. He was good in high school. He almost died before he played for USC. And he didn't look as good at USC because he almost died. And we don't know how good he is now. On top of that, if I'm to believe these men's college basketball records, most of y'all ain't even seen him play. So what are we really talking about here? It's the first time ever that a father and son are going to be able to play at the same time. This is cool. Stop being a hater. Next, the big winner is Victor Wembanyama, with Chris Paul getting signed to the San Antonio Spurs, because the Spurs said, not only are we going to finally get you a point guard, we're getting you the point guard. And now everybody on the Spurs roster is going to Point Guard University, and they're all going to get a PhD. Their most notable alumni from the Chris Paul Point Guard University, little known guard by the name of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, got a couple first team All-Pros. Oh, it's called All-NBA All-Pros. Sorry, same shit. First seed in the West. Pretty good player. So now everyone else on the Spurs is going to be sitting in the class of Chris Paul, and I feel like most of it is just going to be standing next to Wemby with a tape measure and being like, hey, 7-5, throw him the ball, and throw him the ball again. Cool? Cool. Ready, break. Go Spurs. The loser from that deal is everybody else in the league. We're all losing, because Wemby was already going to be good next year, but now you got him the point guard to be giving him easier buckets. Chris Paul got DeAndre Jordan a first team All-NBA. A couple of them, actually. Correction. 1 first team All-NBA, 2 third teams. Same point. Point still stands. Imagine what he's going to do with Victor Wembanyama. So shout out to the Spurs. I was ready to bring the Spurs up on organizational malpractice for drafting a generational center and not giving him someone who's capable of doing, I don't know, an entry pass, a pocket pass from a pick and roll, something related to anything. You know what? It's fine. Y'all got Chris Paul. I'm letting it go. Next, Paul George signs with the 76ers. Obviously, the Sixers are the big winner here. They went into this offseason wanting to get a third star to add to the team. You end up with Paul George. What is he going to be for 35 years old, 4 years on the contract at $200 million? Remains to be seen. But you made the move. You went into this offseason wanting to make the move. You did it. Awesome. The big loser of this, though, Los Angeles Clippers. This solidifies that they made the worst trade in NBA history. Now, I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm inclined to say that it's the Brooklyn Nets trade that eventually led to us getting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But here's the key difference. First, the Nets got a bunch of people from the Celtics, most notably 2 future Hall of Famers. Different point of their career, but 2 future Hall of Famers in that trade. All the Clippers got was Paul George. All they got was Paul George. Even just straight up trading Paul George for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on its own, that's a bad trade. Nothing else mentioned. When you throw in all the other picks they sent away, that makes you sick to your stomach. All 5 Clippers. I know it's hard to sleep at night when you think about that one. And also on the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander point, bringing him up a lot today in this podcast, it's not like the Clippers traded away the pick that became Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They had him. They drafted him already. If the Nets had Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown on the roster and traded him away, then they became all NBA players. Okay, different story. They didn't know who the hell was going to get traded for that pick 5 years later. They had no idea. But yeah, Clippers, big losers here. Allegedly, they're looking to trade Russell Westbrook as well. So I guess James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are going to be on the posters for the new stadium next year. Good luck. Good luck. Next up, the Villanova Knicks trading for Mikal Bridges. I don't care about the picks they traded away on this one. I know that almost completely contradicts everything I just said about the Paul George trade. Don't care. Everybody in the NBA basketball world knew this trade was coming, and you still pulled it off. And you didn't really get bent over a barrel that bad, because sometimes you got to pay the price to pay the price. Speaking of paying the price, we could talk about that OG Anunoby contract if I really wanted to throw some water on this parade, but I don't want to do that. I want to be a good person right now and just do nothing but celebrate the Knicks. Okay, a little bit of water on the parade. I can't help myself. We have a classic matchup of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. The unstoppable force being Tom Thibodeau playing his players 45 minutes a game versus the immovable object of Mikal Bridges, who hasn't missed a single game of basketball since he was a toddler. One of those things are gonna give this year. I don't know which one. For the sake of me being a basketball fan who enjoys watching good basketball, I hope we get 82 games regular season of Mikal Bridges playing 45 minutes a game, just because that would be cool to watch. But the Knicks easily made themselves a better team. Do I think they're the best team in the East? Even with my Celtics bias being put to the side, no. I just don't think they are still. It's just hard to convince me that you already can put them over the team that just won a championship not even a month ago. But it's a step in the right direction. Now you just got to figure out what you're going to do with Julius Randle, because that's still a huge question. And, getting a center might also be helpful. Next up, joins the Dallas Mavericks, and everyone but Klay Thompson is a loser here. Even though Klay Thompson's agent made it a point to tweet at Woj or text Woj or make sure Woj included in the tweet, yeah, man, Klay actually turned down bigger money because he wanted to go to Dallas. All right, bro. Okay. He just wanted to go to Dallas, He turned down more money at other places. Okay. But if you're the Warriors, they gave Draymond $100 million last year. Y'all didn't have 3 for $50 for Klay Thompson? Granted, he's at a different point in his career, but so is Draymond. And if you're going to try to keep the dynasty together, I would think you'd prioritize bringing in Klay over Draymond, but that's just me. And if you're the Mavericks, this seems like the classic, we just lost the championship. We think we're closer to winning it all than we actually are. So we're going to trade for someone with championship experience, even though they might be at a different point of their career. If you're judging off the Klay we saw last year, that player is not going to be the difference between you losing to the Celtics in 5 and winning the series and insert how many games here. It just isn't. The Mavericks lost because they had 2 ball handlers on the team. Pause. Klay Thompson is not a ball handler. He had 2 other players on his team to handle that. So he's back in the same position he was in beforehand. All you have is a better version of the corner shooters you weren't able to use in the finals in the first place. But if you're Klay, you got to go make $50 million at a later point of your career after 4 straight knee injuries. It's a good deal for you. Next up, big winners, my Boston Celtics, who have more money than God. After signing Jason Tatum to the largest contract in NBA history, re-signing Derek White, the Celtics now have a roster that is worth $500 million. An estimated luxury tax bill for the 2025 to 2026 season of $250 million. Going into this season, it'll be completely blows out the water the $69 million that used to be the highest bill in Celtics history. So they are blowing the bank. I thought our guy Wick, the owner of the Celtics, was like, hey, we won, I'm blowing the bag. Apparently, that's part of the reason why. The other half is, that same day of all those extensions were announced, he said, hey, I'm selling the team. So he's sticking somebody with the bill who isn't him. And I think that's awesome. Now, Forbes estimates the Celtics to be worth $4.7 billion. But considering the Phoenix Suns sold for around that price, and they're not the most historically excellent franchise in NBA history, bias aside, that's just true, NBA. Let's lowball it and say the Celtics go for $5 billion. Whoever buys the team for that $5 billion, what's the extra $500 million for the best roster in the league? What's the extra $500? The real fun where this came in, though, and it's why I started with Allah in the intro, was because the top rumor is that the Celtics could get sold to the Saudis. Now, this is fun for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm not on my high horse about how could we let the Saudis and them come in with their immoral values come and infest our sports in America. Buddy, have you seen American politics? Do you really want to look under the hood of what some of these NBA owners are up to? Just go Google who bought the Dallas Mavericks from Mark Cuban and come back to me after that before we start talking about the Saudis and how they're just committing all these atrocities. If you know a little something about Saudi money, brother, it don't stop. Ron Browns and Busta Rhymes was making that song for a reason. Arab money is a very real thing. They're like $500 million for the roster, double it. Give me 5 Jason Tatums if you can find them. So I personally can't wait to see that going. And for all the cities for this to happen in, for peak hilarity, it would have had to have been the New York Knicks. That's a very heartless joke, but y'all know why. I don't have to elaborate as to why the Knicks would have been hilarious. But for the Boston fans to have to root for a team owned by the Saudis, wow. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Next winner. This is where the team and the player are winner. Isaiah Hartenstein just signed for 3 years, $87 million. He got $37 million more than Klay Thompson. Now I know what the numbers say, but his job is, hey, we can't let Chet Holmgren keep getting pushed around down low. He had too light in the ass for that. You get your ass down there and start taking some of these blows. Here's the money to make up for it. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal. That's what OKC needed when they were going against the Mavericks, which is why they ended up losing in 6. And if you're Isaiah Hartenstein, outside of the fact you have to move from New York to Oklahoma City, which probably sucks, you made out pretty goddamn good. All right, the next one is a combo. Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers agreed to a 3-year, $150 million contract extension. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's the big winner there. All these rumors about how he wants to demand a trade, he doesn't want to be in Cleveland long term, and hell, it might be true. We've seen players sign an extension and request a trade the following year before. We can't rule that out altogether, but for right now, we're going to say that he's on the team. The loser is Darius Garland, who in May said, if y'all extend Donovan Mitchell, well, allegedly Rich Paul said this. It's an Athletic article. We'll never really find out the truth there. Not that I'm calling Buddy at the Athletic that wrote this a liar, but we may never really know how the communication went. But he said, y'all extend Donovan Mitchell, trade me. I don't want to play with him no more. And the Cavaliers said, bet, not only are we going to re-sign him, we ain't trading you because the market ain't what we like and we're not going to get fleeced on this deal. The Cavs called his bluff twice. Although I know that if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I know you just signed Chris Paul, but like, I'd go get Darius Garland. Me personally, I'd go get Darius Garland. All right, last winner. This is very anticlimactic ending. I like with the Orlando Magic this offseason. They made some swings at some big free agents. They said, all right, can't get them. Cool. We're going to re-sign all of our guys. We're going to bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, bring us some more shooting, and we're going to run this back and improve with this team. As much as I hate young teams just assuming they're going to be better the next year, I also hate when they take way too big of a swing and overspend on free agents that aren't worth the price. Like if they would have gave KCP $200 million, we'd be having a very different conversation here. But they didn't. Bring back Gary Harris, bring back Franz Wagner, bring back Jonathan Isaac, who my personal feelings about his politics aside, is a good player when he's actually healthy. All right, y'all know how the NBA is. I'm doing a last second sweep to make sure that no other moves are being made before I stop hitting record here. Because Mikal Bridges got traded in the middle of me editing last week, and that was not fun. Kyle Anderson signed with the Warriors. Kemba Walker retired. Salute to Kemba. All right, 8 p.m. Tuesday, July 2nd. So if anything happens between now and next week, I don't know about it. Cool? Cool.